Patch notes for Season 1 of Diablo 4 just came out, and let's take a look and see what is included and what was left out. Alright, so patch notes just dropped. They are called, it says here, Diablo 4 patch notes. Looks like they're going to be using a 1.1.0a. Alright, so we're going to get into, it looks like, new unique items and legendary aspects. New unique items and legendary aspects have been discovered in Sanctuary. Use them to enhance your character in the Eternal or Seasonal realm. So I assume these are going to be ready right away, starting today on the Eternal servers, the Eternal realms, and then Seasonal realms start on 7/20, so on Thursday. These unique items can be obtained from World Tier 4, and the legendary aspects can be obtained from any world tier. Okay? So you don't even have to play the highest tier to receive these unique items, the legendary aspects. So unique items have to be obtained in World Tier 4. So just to let you know. Here's the 6 unique items. A variant spear of Lycander, an Uber unique staff. I thought they were not putting in Uber items until later. I thought those were banned or, removed from the game. I guess they're bringing them in World Tier 4 so you can get a unique Uber unique staff. Gain a random shrine effect for 10 to 20 seconds after killing an elite enemy. I can see how this is going to get crazy. The chance rate must be really small on that. Can only occur every 30 seconds. Okay, so every 30 seconds. That's still pretty significant. Like, very small, significant. Like, a 30-second cooldown, that's pretty small. This is an extremely rare drop. We wish you luck in recovering it. So, yeah. So these Uber unique staff items, whatever they're going to be, the Uber uniques are going to be really hard to get. But this is in a very, very good item, I would say. Very good item that's, put into Season 1. For Barbarians, so here's the breakdown. So that one you can get for every class that can hold a unique staff. But now here's the breakdown of the items that are going to be coming for barbarians, for druids, for necromancers, rogues, and sorcerers. So it looks like we're getting Azarath, a unique sword, lucky hit for barbarians. It's a lucky hit. Your core skills have up to 20% chance to freeze enemies for 3 seconds and deal 0.75 to 1.5 cold damage to them. I'm not a barbarian player, so I'm not going to tell you if it's good or not. But to me, freeze items are good. They're one of my most annoying things to deal with in Diablo 4. So, druids, flesh render. This one's gonna be very important to me since I do play a druid, and I think I plan on playing a druid for Season 1. So, flesh render, unique one-handed mace, deliberating roar and blood howl deal 0.5 to 1 damage to nearby poison enemies. That is pretty good. It will be interesting to see how that plays. I think this is a overall good item because poison is used in pretty much most druid builds. So good item for druids. Necromancer, Littlest Wall unique shield, lucky hit. When you have an active Bone Storm, hitting an enemy outside of Bone Storm has up to 5 to 25% chance to spawn additional Bone Storm at their location. Okay, so this one, it actually looks pretty good. It also has each active sacrifice bonuses increase the chance by 25%. The total number of additional Bone Storms you can have by 1. That seems really good. I don't know if Bone Storm is something that wasn't very powerful, but this should help make it more powerful. I mean, this is a nice item as well. Eagle Horn for rogues. It's a unique bow. Penetrating shot has 30 to 80% chance to fire an arrow that bounces off walls and scenery. Hitting enemies from behind with penetrating shot will make them vulnerable for 3 seconds. Anything that has vulnerable is amazing, and it looks like there's no cooldown on that, so they could just be forever vulnerable. That seems amazing. That seems broken. I don't like to use the word broken, but that seems broken. Sorcerer, the Oculus, unique wand. Okay, so gain the effect of teleport enchantment for free. When you evade using teleport enchantment, you are taken to a random location. That one doesn't seem very good, but I don't play Sorcerer. But it doesn't seem that exciting. Let's see. Now we're on to 7 new legendary aspects, and here's the legendary aspects. Audacity, a utility aspect. When there are at least 5 close enemies, stun them for 2 to 4 seconds. This can only occur at once every 20 seconds. Super good for druids who are doing werewolf builds. Very good. Shred ability. You know, if you're using shred, this is a great aspect to get. Craven, mobility aspect. You gain 20 to 40% increased movement speed when moving away from slowed or chilled enemies. Very good paired up with like the walking chill item that you can get where you can chill enemies as you're walking away and like create a path. This is a good item to go along with that. You'd probably be like moving at the speed of light. Probably a good rogue item or rogue aspect. Barbarian, ancestral charge, offensive aspect. Charge calls forth 4 ancients who also charge, dealing 40 to 100% of normal damage. That seems really good. Again, I don't know because I don't play Barbarian, but it seems really good. Now here's Druid. This one's the one I'm thinking about. It looks like they're going to be bringing back Poison Creepers, buffing Poison Creeper a little bit more. Subterranean offensive aspect. Poison Creepers active also casts Landslide in a this landslide ability, guys, this is okay. So I'm gonna tell you one thing. Landslide ability, it's great. It's annoying sound. I mean, it's really annoying to listen to, but it's the only thing that is like, I feel like shred and like this ability gets so much attention compared to everything else. Like boulder, not a whole lot of attention. There's like maybe 1 or 2 items that play into boulder very well. I feel like landslide is the ultimate. Like you can, there's like 5 different items, like unique or legendary items that makes landslide like elevated. Like it evolves landslide tremendously. This is another landslide like evolution. It's crazy. Earth skills deal 10 to 20% increased damage to poison. Oh my gosh. I think now we're going to be doing an earth and poison build. Okay. All right. We're going to be doing that now. Necromancer, Gore Quills, offensive aspects. So these are all offensive aspects, it looks like, in the patch notes. All these new aspects that have been added to the game. Gore Quills, Blood Lance will consume blood orbs to also conjure lances from them. Each additional blood lance deals 20 to 50% of normal damage and prioritize targeting unlanced enemies. It might be good, I don't know. Seems like a great item, but you'll have to decide if you play Necromancer. Rogues, Pestilent points. Every 3rd cast of puncture is poison imbued with 100% to 150% of normal potency. That seems very good. Poison is very strong in the game. Seems like a really good item for rogues. Sorcerer, Searing Wards, offensive aspect. After spending 200 to 100 mana, this seems like a typo. 200 to 100? That's like backwards. I think they might have meant 200 to 1,000 mana. Your next firewall is free to cast and will destroy incoming small missiles. So offensive and defensive, they should have probably put on that. So bug fixes, let's see if any of these really stand out that we should cover. It's just like quality of life fixes that nobody cares about. The thing is, when you create like patch notes, there needs to be more to the patch notes. Make it exciting. You know, these areas should be like suppressed. Like they should be in their own little drop down menu of stuff like, hey, if you really want to look at the nerdy fixes, you know, like, oh, fix an issue where progression could be blocked during the flesh and blood quest, you know, that should be a drop down menu item. I think there needs to be at the top a little bit more of this. You see this where it's like 7 legendary, 6 unique items. We need to have that stuff right at the front. And if that's all that's in this like patch, I mean, it doesn't have me excited, I can tell you that. All right, so we're going to talk about loading screens. We've added more dynamic loading screens with the release of Season of the Malignant. This includes adding more assets to the loading screen, such as your player character. Okay, that will be interesting to see what that looks like. Altar of Lilith unlocks are now account-wide. Map discovery is now account-wide. Whispers will no longer reward sigil dust. Okay. Overall loot quality has been significantly improved for silent chests. Okay, that's good. The channel time for the leave dungeon ability has been increased from 3 to 5 seconds. All right. We have generally reduced the tendency for many monsters to move around in combat so that melee characters don't have to chase them down. Oh, this is perfect. I always felt like this needed to happen. It felt like some NPCs or monsters would run around and you would be chasing like with werewolf all the time or bear. Like it was annoying for druids because our movement speed is not nearly as fast as other classes. World Tier 2 has the following bonuses added. Bonus gold increased from 15% to 20%. Monsters now drop 15% more items. There we go. See, these game updates, these gameplay updates need to be at the top. Put the fixes way at the bottom. Nobody cares about the fixes. All right? Put these things up at the top where people want to know, like, this is what I want to read about. This is getting me excited. Like, seeing these actual stat increases. This is what gets players excited, okay? We like where World Tier 2 has landed overall, but are increasing the reward pace to better align with its difficulty. This makes more sense for me to do, like, I wish there was a little bit more of XP boost at World Tier 2, but I understand they are trying to balance it. So this is still, you know, next season, maybe we'll get a little bit more of a balancing. So levels scaling inside dungeons and most overworld territories has been adjusted in World Tiers 3 and 4. Monsters will begin to trail behind the player in level after a certain point up to a maximum of 5 levels behind. This change does not affect world bosses. Okay. I don't get really what this really means. I guess it's monsters will begin to trail behind the player in level. That they were having issues with people saying there wasn't enough like the sense of your character like progressing or expanding or getting better. There wasn't like a significant change in that, and it didn't reflect in the game. So this is going to make it so that it feels like your character is actually much better than the creatures because the level will be lower. We'll see how that plays out. I had no problem with it before, so we want to give players a better sense of their power progression and mastery over the world while still challenging themselves with structured endgame activities. World Tier 3 example, if the player's level is below 55, the monster's level is 55. If a player's level is 56 to 60, the monster's level is 55. If the player's, okay, so if you're 61, it can only be, the lowest it can be is 5 levels below you. So that's really good. I actually kind of like that. So then you're like dominating like dungeons, you can speed run through them faster. That's good. It's the same with world tier. I guess the monsters level, if you're 75, the monsters level is 75, and then anything above that, it's 5 levels. Okay, good. Reward experience for completing Whispers in World Tiers 3 and 4 has been significantly increased. Thank you. There is no reason to do Whispers in the higher world tiers, and so this is definitely a good thing to see that they're caring about that. We have observed that the experience bonus rewarded for killing higher level monsters escalates too fast when comparing to relative challenge involved. We still want to reward players for taking on this challenge by encouraging them to participate in power leveling together instead of one player killing enemies while another member of their party waits at the dungeon's entrance. That kind of reminds me of what I do for my brother since he's like 20 levels below me. But yeah, they want you to play with people. They want you to engage at the same level and kill minions and monsters all together. So preseason of the malignant bonuses, 1 level higher, 15%, 2 level higher. So they're giving you more of an incentive to kill higher level monsters, which is really great. Because there was no reason to do it before, because you get the same experience. This is going to give you 15%, 20%, 3 plus 25%. So you should always try to do nightmare dungeons that are 3 plus levels higher to get that 25%. So three levels higher, it's going to give you a 25% boost now, which is great. Postseason, 1.5% bonus per level up to 10 levels. Okay, so if you get to 10 levels, it's 15%. So when they do the postseason, like when we do the actual season here, it's going to be a little bit more capped to 10 levels to make it more challenging. But I see why they're doing that. They don't want people to power level so quickly. This allows people to level up their character in the Eternal Realms a little bit quicker so everybody can get to level 100 a little bit faster. We are also adjusting experience rewards for monsters level offsets for higher world tiers. Current world tier level offsets: world tier 2 up to +3, world tier 3 up to +10, world tier 5 or 4 up to +100. We are changing this to 3 +6 plus. What does that even mean? Is that like a decrease? For example, you are level 1, your friends bringing you to world tier 4 and leaving you at the entrance of the dungeon. They'll start killing level 100 monsters. Prior to the season of Malignant, you get level 100 monsters XP times 1 plus 25%. Okay. After the season Malignant, you get level 11 monster XP. Okay, so you're going to get, it's a reduce. So they don't want you to power level people now. They don't want you to just power level your friends through it. I really didn't see a difference when I was doing it for my brother, but they felt like they needed to change that. All right, going on to Helltide. Developer notes, we are looking to increase the danger in Helltide's risk-reward gameplay. Yes. The game felt a little under challenging, like even for my level. I feel like there should be areas where it's a little bit more challenging for lower levels. And so I'm glad to see this. By making the monsters a bit more challenging and the tortured gift of mysteries harder to open. Okay, so they're going to increase the amount to open those, probably. Helltide monsters are now 3 levels higher than the player instead of 2. Okay, that's a decent change. I mean, it's not super huge, but the Torture Gift Mysteries chest had its cost increased to 250 from 175. I'm fine with that. That needed to be increased so people would stop farming it and getting tons of good items. So all interchangeable objects in Helltide zones now have a small chance of dropping. Okay, that's cool. Interactable objects, sorry. I said interchangeable. Interactable objects. So like crafting things, ores, things like that have a small chance of dropping Amaranth Cinders. So all of them do now. There were certain ones that were marked that you could tell that they were going to drop them, but now all of them will drop them. So Balance updates. Okay. So here we go. You put the balance updates in the wrong area for us to look for. They should be up at front again. We don't care about fixes. Put the fixes at the bottom. All right, the developer notes for this: as our community continues to battle the burning hells, the builds emerging from new players have shocked and delighted us. We've chosen to focus season of Malignant's balance updates on clear itemization disparities over redesigns of class features. The class changes are largely focused on numeric increases to skill upgrades and legendary aspects that player haven't yet found compelling. Additionally, we're changing critical strike damage paragon glyphs to empower all damage instead of only core skills to enable more builds. Okay, that one is, we'll see how that is, but it looks like they're trying to make it more wide use for crit strike damage instead of like your core skills are the only ones that can crit strike or be affected by this crit damage. So, crit damage paragon glyphs. There are also a few class stat decreases on sources, which grant extreme amounts of damage, healing, and are unstoppable. Oh man! In general, we prefer build-specific changes to be bonuses instead of decreases, but we feel these changes are necessary for the overall health of the game. Diablo 4 is a game that continually evolving through its seasons. Thus, the adjustments we make will evolve with them. If they do this, they should just give us a free reset, I think. Otherwise, people are going to get ticked off. And the reason for a free reset, or maybe even a reduced cost reset, is so that people now can look at it and be like, all right, this build that I was doing before isn't going to be necessarily as good as it was per the balance updates. So we need to reset my abilities and rebuild from there. Because like messing around with a Paragon board, that's gonna tick people off, I bet. All right, let's go through each. These are a little bit easier to follow. Wow, there's a lot of updates. Okay. This is Barbarian. Violent double swing, vulnerable damage, duration. Vulnerable duration increased from 1 to 2 seconds. That's a buff. Furious upheaval damage bonus per stack increase from 3% to 5%. That's a buff. Power change cooldown reduction is now capped at 3 targets for a maximum of 9 seconds of cooldown reduction. That's probably just a balance change, not a buff or, you know, like a nerf. It's just like it's a necessary change. Tactical ground stomp fury gain increased from 25 to 40. That's a buff. Looks like a lot of buffs in here. Enhanced death blows damage bonus to bosses increased from 100 to 150. That's a buff. There's a buff on enhanced steel grasp vulnerability. Enhanced rupture damage increased. That's a buff. Warrior's rupture attack speed bonus increased from 20 to 30. That's a buff. All right, so it looks like our barbarian builds are going to get a nice little buff for the most part. It looks like there's a passive that's been reduced. Looks like hamstring now is a buff, slightly a buff. And then it looks like your bone blading damage bonus to vulnerable reduced. So that's a slight nerf. It's not too terribly bad, but it looks like it's a nerf. Wrath glyph bonuses from bonuses now affects all damage instead of just core skills. That's a buff, a huge buff. Relentless berserker aspect, berserking duration increase. That's good. Yeah, so a majority of this stuff is a buff. A lot of good buffs. Slight adjustments. We'll see if they're, you know, game-breaking adjustments, but and some items look like they were buffed as well. All right, druids. The thing I'm most interested in, druids. Did they get buffed? Did they get nerfed? Enhanced claw attack speed increased. That's a buff. Storm strike damage reduction. That's hurting. That's mega. That's mega bad. Boulder damage increased 33 to 46. That's a nice buff. Savage Trample Spirit gained increase. That's nice. Prime Lacerate is a buff. Let's see. Looks like Tornado was buffed. Looks like lightning damage from Cataclysm was buffed up. Supreme Cataclysm vulnerable duration increase. That's good. Prime Cataclysm duration increase. That's good. Prime Grizzly Rage now. This is what I used to use a lot, and I still use it today. Hopefully it didn't get nerfed. Oh, Prime Grizzly Rage now grants Unstoppable for 6 seconds instead of while active. Ooh. Uh-oh. That's a nerf. That's a hit. That's a hit. Not very good. Not looking good. Provoke. I can't even say this. Anyways, this is a nerf right here. Required for guaranteed overpower reduced from... Oh, this is the threshold required. So this is actually, I think it's a slight, just a tweak. It just didn't work correctly the way they wanted it to. So this is just I think it's a slight buff. I think. Could be reading that wrong. Okay, so now this requires a lucky hit chance of 75%. Spirit boons, oh man. Prickle Skin Thorns increased. Got buffs in here, it looks like, for the most part. That's all pretty good stuff. That's pretty generic stuff though. Spirit Glyphs bonus is now affected all damage instead of just... That's a really nice thing though. All these glyphs are now affected to everything, not just core skills, which I was looking at that when I was playing and like doing basic skills attacks. I noticed some things were just not doing as much damage as my core abilities, so that's really good to see. All right, looks like lucky hit chance has been overall increased, which is good. Balance aspect maximum spirit increase, that looks good. Increase there. The ones I use, I don't see as much. Cooldown reduction, that looks good. Aspects, stampede damage bonus increased. Man, I think that one's broken already. The aspect of stampede. Okay, so a lot of just buffs in general. Mad Wolf's Glee, werewolf skill ranks now increased from 2 to 3. I think I have this one. So that is also really good to see. I want to see, I'll already have it, so we'll be able to see if that's a huge significant increase for werewolves. But this is good. This is very good. Let's just get an overall sense of what Necromancer. I don't really have huge interest in it, but it looks like there's a lot of buffs to every class. There's some little minor tweaks of like debuffs, I guess, little nerfs, but they're probably necessary. It looks like there's some nerfs to a little bit more nerfs to Necromancer, but there's also buffs in some areas. So I think they just wanted to balance it so you could have different playstyles and not feel forced to play a certain way. Aspects of Grasping Veins, critical strike damage bonus reduced. Yeah, there's some tweaking, it looks like, in here, but it looks like Necromancers are getting a little bit more nerfs than the other two classes. Let's take a look at Rogues really quick. And I'm gonna drop the patch notes link so you guys can take a look at the patch notes yourself and decide whether this was a good update or if this was a terrible update. All the notes for the patch notes will be in the link in the bottom of this video. So, let's see, Rogues. Looks like they have a bunch of increase. It looks like the Rogues just got buffed. That makes me want to play the Rogues a little bit more too. I think they needed to get buffed though. They're pretty weak. Yeah, it looks like everything is a buff for... I didn't see any reductions that were, negative debuffs, It's all pluses for the Rogues. Now, Sorcerers, let's take a look at Sorcerers. See how they have these tabs? They should have this, for all the, fixes and stuff. A lot of increases, it looks like. Fireball damage increase. It looks like, man, these guys, I thought these guys were like broken. Or a little bit better than every other class except for like the necromancers. I guess these guys got a buff as well. So a lot of damage buffing, a lot of like reductions, like defense passives, it looks like, and like some other passives all got buffed. Devouring Blaze bonus critical strike damage to embolize reduced. So there's a nerf. But for the most part, it's all buffs. Yeah, it looks like buffs for the most part. Here's a nerf, Hydra enhancement, mana threshold reduced. I guess maybe that's a buff or a nerf. I don't know. You'll have to tell me in the chat in the comments below if this is a buff or a nerf. This Hydra enhancement mana threshold. Let's see what else we got here. Now this is the exciting stuff I want to see at the beginning. All right, so you know, Blizzard, when you're watching this, make sure you put all this content at the beginning so we get excited, and then just put all the fixes at the bottom because most of us don't even care about that. So looks like for the most part, yeah, everything for the, yeah, it looks like a damage increase. There's some reductions in here. Duration reductions. Bonus reductions. So it looks like the Necromancers probably got nerfed the most, and then Sorcerer, and then Rogue Druids and Barbarians got a good buff. Much necessary buff. Looks like aspects of disobedience, maximum stacks reduced from 100 to 60, reducing maximum bonuses armor percentage from 25 to 50%, to 15% to 30%. So that's a nerf right there on that aspect. Aspect of retribution bonus damage to stun to reduced. So there's some reductions there. Unstoppable bonus damage to unstoppable reduced, and resources restore increased. So 3 of the aspects have been reduced, so nerfed, and then 1 aspect has been increased, which, you know, these are just probably quality of life changes. The Butcher's Cleaver slow increased. The Butcher, guys, is getting a buff. Holy shnikes. Drop rate adjustments. Increased bonus drop ancestral and sacred items in Nightmare Dungeons from 5 to 10. That's good. Removed a 20% chance to drop an extra equipment item from the elite monsters outside of Nightmare Dungeons. Okay. Increased chance to drop an extra equipment from elite monsters in Nightmare Dungeons and Helltides by 10%. That's a really nice increase. Gives you a reason to do Nightmare and Helltide. Perfect. Love that. Nightmare Dungeons now have 50% chance to drop a second legendary item upon completion. Are these uniques, or is it just a legendary? You know, like a sacred or an ancestral legendary, normal legendary. That will be interesting to see. Nightmare Dungeons now give 3 rare items upon completion, up from 1. Okay, we'll see what 3 rare items mean. It's probably yellow items, so. Monsters increased monster HP scaling from 85% to 100% bonus per extra player in the party. Okay, that's a good sign. This deal will be a little bit more challenging. Miscellaneous stuff. World bosses now drop potions more often. Okay, that's okay. Adjusted the scaling of Greed Shrine to improve its effectiveness throughout the game. There's no longer a limit to how many materials you can refine into higher materials at once. Okay. I get that a little bit. Item affixes. Man, this is going to be a huge... I mean, this is now we're getting to all the good stuff. This is a huge patch, honestly. They started with boring stuff, and now we're getting into the huge mega update stuff. So this is good to see. Item affixes. Developers note many affixes are too efficient and are outshining alternatives. We're looking to refine the outliers, improve the number of meaningful choices on competitive slots, increase the overall flexibility of items. We know these changes will reduce the total amount of possible power a character can possess or can possesses. So we'll be monitoring how these changes affect players' ability to conquer expected milestones throughout the season. Okay. We're increasing the availability of fixes below to make them easier to include in different builds. Controlled impaired duration reduction can now appear on pants. So they're basically just giving us all these aspects or affixes on other items. So they're basically just giving us all these affixes on new items that they weren't before. So like controlled impaired duration reduction is now going to appear on pants. Barrier generation can now appear for all classes. It will also begin dropping later in the game. Lucky hit chance while you have a barrier can now appear on all classes. Okay. There's some nerfs in there though. Mastery skill damage newly added can appear on sorcerer weapons. Okay. Resistance to all elements can now appear on shields. Okay. The core stat bonuses on weapons have been overpowering, so we're pulling back on this bonuses. Oh man. Oh no. So we're having a reduction, it looks like a nerf to core stat bonuses on weapons. Which is kind of depressing, but oh well. Cooldown reduction fixes often felt mandatory due to their raw power. We imagine cooldown reduction will remain a higher desirable stat, but the penalty for not prioritizing it won't be as harsh. Cooldown reduction reduced by 30%. Perfect. Movement skill cooldown reduction is reduced by 30. This is all good. This is all very good. I did feel like the cooldown reduction was like a need for druids, so probably for other classes as well. We're seeing critical strike damage and vulnerable damage often viewed as a hard requirement for builds. Oh no, here we come. So they're gonna bounce all the crit damage. Oh no. It's reduced by 17%. Lightning crit strike damage reduced by 17. Vulnerable damage reduced by 40%. I mean, where's the balance though for that damage, that missing damage? Okay, we're gonna see. We're gonna see. This is all targeted to druids. You can tell. Druids and necromancers. Big nerf. Huge nerf. Probably some of the, what do you call it, to a big nerf to, or slight nerf to sorcerers too. So, developer notes disparities inherent affixes can rule some weapons out before the rest of their stats are even rolled. These are received harsher reductions than their normal affix counterparts. Increased weapon flexibility, cooldown reduction inherent on offhands reduced by 35%, and critical strike damage reduced. Ooh, that one's a bad one. The cooldown's a buff. The critical strike damage, though, is a nerf, and the vulnerability is a nerf. Ooh, and that's to swords and crossbows specifically. So our offhands got buffed, I think. Or they might have got nerfed too. Actually, this is kind of confusing. So I think it's all nerfs actually. So developer notes damage bonus to crowd controlled enemies was overperforming relative to ease of activating it versus stricter crowd control type specific affixes. Okay, so we're getting nerfed. All right, so here's the buffs. We're not going to read this whole thing. This is a big thing here, but physical damage is getting increased. Fire damage increase. Cold damage increase. Lightning damage increase. Let's see this. Is this applied to monsters or just players? Okay, so this is increased damage to everything else. The majority is increased. So they basically they basically took away the vulnerability and the impaired like crowd controlling damage. They brought that down, but they boosted everything else. So there should be this more balance. So you're not like required to go straight up vulnerability. But the issue is they didn't buff these that much. It's like 25%. Oh, armor. Total armor has been reduced. That's a nerf. Damage reduction from close enemies reduced by 20. Oh, there's some nerfs in here. Ooh. All right, so we're seeing a lot more damage increases, but we're seeing like defenses are taking a big hit, taking some nerfs. And you can take a look in the patch notes. I'll put it in the comment section below or into the little note section below of this video. And that is it. That is the notes right there. So I'm seeing, so I don't know, they didn't even speak, you know, it's crazy. They didn't even speak to the season, you know? They don't even touch upon the malignant. Are they saving that for another day? Because I don't see it in the notes here. That is so bizarre. So it looks like they're making it more challenging. They're making it the big takeaways from this, guys, to conclude this video. The big takeaways is that they're going to be increasing experience items in like nightmare dungeons and challenging areas. They want to encourage more. They balanced out how you go through dungeons with other players, giving you more experience, but also increasing the health of the monsters. They're increasing the amount of items and rewards you get from Hell Tides and from Nightmare Dungeons. They also boosted the World Tier 2. So World Tier 2, it feels more like an actual tier that you should maybe look into instead of just, you know, skipping it from going from World Tier 1 to World Tier 3. And then they balanced out how vulnerability works, how crit strike works, how, you know, damage to impaired crowd control, you know, how that works. And then they buffed everybody's abilities, like damage abilities, in the other areas. I didn't see like a resistance increase, which is kind of confusing because I thought that was one of the big things that people were complaining about. Like resistance, I don't see resistance in here at all. But it looks like it's harder to die. You do more damage, but it's easier to die. You do more damage though. So they're making it a little bit more challenging, which I like. And I think people will like it as well. It will stop these, you know, one direction builds like vulnerability build or a, you know, crit strike vulnerability build. It'll make it so that there's multiple builds. There's different ways to explore how to build your character going into season 1. And I like some of the changes, but I'm also concerned about some of the changes because, I mean, they're gonna probably have to do like a really quick fix if there's anything broken or if people start dying way too quickly now. But it's crazy to see that Butcher is still really powerful. I thought that would be adjusted or balanced a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see what people come up with for builds going into season 1. So crazy. The last thing I want to say is I didn't see anything about the Malignant. I think they're holding off until the actual season 1 launch day to drop that information. But you can try all these things right now. The patch went live today, and season 1 will be the start of this. Season 1 will start on July 20th, and hopefully we get some more patch notes on that because it wasn't explained in this current patch that came out today. So you guys have a great day. Make sure you like this video. Drop a sub if you want to see some more Diablo 4 content from your boy Turkey Farmer. And yeah, drop a comment if there's something I left out or didn't go over. If you want to check out the notes, they'll be below. And guys and girls, I will see you on the next video. Gobble gobble.